Hello and welcome to Nikon Report, your weekly roundup of all the latest Nikon news and all other photographic announcements that we found interesting. It's Konstantin here, and here is
Becky.
It's number 83. Let's start.
We shall. A slightly somber beginning to our podcast this week. For obvious reasons, it's a slightly different week for us here in the UK. After the death of Queen Elizabeth II, the whole country is mourning, and everything has pretty much been put at some form of standstill. However, we will soldier on and bring you the latest Nikon news. The scheduling will be slightly different over the course of the next week or so, understandably, in the run-up to the Queen's funeral. But in the meantime, here's the news.
Absolutely. Keep in mind that there's a photography show of the weekend, so just maybe check their websites if there are any delays or any days that have been put off, perhaps Monday. So if you're planning your trip, just do check their website for the latest updates on that. Okay, well, let's move on with the rest of the show. First one up, we have Nikon UK and EU sales. It's 10% off Nikon Z lens, and this promotion will run till 21st of September. What lenses, Becky, are available on offer?
So there's actually 69 Nikon lenses from F mount to Z mount lenses, and the number of lenses that aren't included is probably smaller than the list that are. In F mount, we have all of the AFS primes. Actually, in F mount, we have pretty much everything. All the PC lenses, macro lenses, all the zooms, all the DX lenses that are still available. The Z lenses are a little bit more selected. Obviously, new releases and hard to come by lenses aren't included in the promotion. So the 400 2.8, 4.5, 800 6.3, and the 24 120 are not on the list. But pretty much every other Nikon Z lens is on the list, including all the zooms and primes, and including our favorite 105 2.8 macro. Now, if you are planning on buying any of these lenses, I would urge you to do so before the promotion runs out. Even if we don't have them in stock, you will be able to get the discounted price, and then we'll fulfill the orders afterwards as soon as we get stock availability from Nikon. But it's a good chance to save, in some cases, a couple of £100 on some of these lenses.
Yeah, 10% off is nothing to sniff about.
That's right.
Absolutely. Okay, well, last week has been at the beginning of the weeks of the product announcements by all photographic brands, including Apple. Apple announced iPhone 14 and 14 Pro with 48 megapixel camera, but we also saw the announcement of Hasselblad X2D with a 100 megapixel sensor, and it's a big one from Hasselblad. They finally catching up with GFX 100S and bringing the 100 megapixel sensor, image stabilization on their camera, as well as they announced 3 lenses. Obviously, Hasselblad system of medium format comes with a leaf shutter, so for studio photographers it's a win. And obviously GFX system from Fuji is a little bit cheaper and therefore doesn't offer the leaf shutter.
From Fuji, we have the XH2 and the XSH2 cameras. Now, the XH2 camera comes with a 40 megapixel sensor and several lenses they also announced for the XF and GF mounts.
Yeah, now let's talk about 40 megapixel sensor. This is the highest resolution DX sensor available currently on the market. We're not 100% sure what would be equivalent of a full-frame sensor with the same pixel pitch, but it's not a 61 megapixel because according to Sony A7R, they get 26 megapixel in the APS-C crop. So 40 megapixel sounds to me that it could be something like 80 megapixel plus sensor would be on the full-frame body. So very interesting. My question to you, Becky, is with the 40 megapixel available for the high resolution version DX camera, and then 26 megapixel available for the XH2S camera, which is fast speed. Which one would you prefer as a DX sensor for, let's say, future Nikon camera? I think 20 megapixels that we have currently on ZFC, Z50, and Z30 cameras, I think this one, we need an upgrade. So which resolution would you prefer, Becky?
I think for those who are doing sort of fast movement action photography, who have chosen the DX or APS-C sensor for that purpose, are going to potentially want a slightly lower resolution, just because when you get to those higher resolutions, your low light performance is not particularly good. Understandably, the pixels are much smaller, less light sensitivity, as it were. Whereas if you're a studio photographer, 40 megapixels would be great, or landscape. So I personally would like the 40 megapixels, but okay, that's me.
So here's the question. So 40 megapixel is a non-stacked sensor. So the readout is slower. So it's not just gives you low frame rate, but also the whole readout is slower. So therefore, for moving subject, you may get a jelly effect, etc., etc. The X2D Hasselblad has been announced is prone to that. It's actually readout from Fuji sensor is faster compared to Hasselblad, which is very interesting because technically they use the same off-shelf sensor available from Sony. Now, if you're going to ever see something like Z90, which would be AK D500, so I would prefer to have something like 26 megapixel sensor with a faster readout, which should potentially give us a high frame rate and good low light performance. Now, 40 megapixel sensor on DX camera, I don't know, Becky. I mean, if I would be a Fujifilm user and I would be a studio photographer, I would go for GFX system myself.
Very big price difference.
Very big price difference, but then if you're a studio photographer and you need that megapixel count, that would be my way to go. On Nikon system, because we have a full frame offering from Nikon,
Yes.
I just don't see the point of very high resolution sensor on a DX camera, because I guess studio photographers would prefer to go for full frame equivalent. That's my thought. Obviously, our viewers may not agree with me, but I just feel that with the whole idea of Nikon is pushing their full frame equivalences, that's their priority nowadays. Of course, DX, I wouldn't say it's an afterthought, but I think that DX is probably would appeal to two different groups. It's entry-level group.
Yeah.
So entry-level photographers like Z30 is one of those cameras. And then fast frame rate sports and wildlife photographers who need a higher frame rate. So, and they can put there, let's say, something like 600 or 800 mil, and they'll get 1.5 factor crop on the lens, so it would give them something like 900 or 1200 millimeter equivalent. So in terms of this, I think I would rather prefer them to have something like a 26 megapixel sensor in DX over 40 megapixel. But it's an interesting development. Obviously, if Nikon can offer both of them, we'll take both of them.
Yes, I would have liked maybe a halfway house between the two, because it would be nice to see something a little bit more than the 24, 26 megapixels that we've seen over the years. Having something around 30 would be great. But it is an interesting announcement from Fuji, just because they obviously see that there's a market for a high resolution APS-C camera. So we're intrigued about your thoughts. If Nikon were to bring out a 40 megapixel DX camera, is that something that you would be interested in? Are you a DX user? Let us know in the comments.
Absolutely. That's pretty much it with camera announcement. Just keep that in mind. The rest of the week, we had lenses announcements. So the one you heard before, Tamron announced their first native Z-mount lens, 7300, with a Tamron logo on it. So that's number one. Panasonic announced 18mm for their L-mount lens. OM System, which is Olympus, made a development announcement of 90mm lens. Leica announced their first senior lenses that's actually available for order now as well. And then in surprise move, TT Artisan announced the new 17mm 1.4 lens for Canon RF mount.
Shocking.
Yeah, what do you think, Becky? Shall we tell them?
Someone's going to have to break the news to them pretty soon.
Absolutely. Even Pagani released a new 8x10 large format camera.
Wow. And then Samyang announced some AF Cine lenses, and obviously, as I said, Apple announced an iPhone 14 and an iPhone 14 Pro with a 48 megapixel camera on that tiny, tiny, tiny sensor.
Tiny, tiny sensors. But you know what? The sensors are increasing in size, so give it another 15 years. Maybe we'll get to DX crop, who knows, in a small form factor. Now, the weeks of the announcement haven't finished yet. So throughout the next couple of weeks, we will see more announcements from other manufacturers and hopefully Nikon as well. That's to do with, they do those announcements so with the availability for end of October and obviously pre-Christmas, so people can buy their goodies before the new year. So what things are expected to be announced? So Sigma is supposed to announce 628 and also 50 lenses for Sony E-mount. My hope that with the current announcements of Tamron native Z lens, they will hopefully announce a native Z lens from Sigma. So, you know, fingers crossed. We also have Pentax Japan, have some sort of meeting scheduled on Clubhouse. Remember that? Remember that future of the social networking?
Yes.
You know, the Clubhouse. Well, apparently in Japan is still big. So they have a meeting on September 25th with their viewers. Leica film camera, that's something I'm waiting for, is rumored to be announced in October. Obviously, with Leica new film camera has been rumored for years now. So
yes.
Who knows?
Still a rumor.
Exactly. And obviously, the rumor was there could be a cheap camera. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything cheap from Leica. But if they announce a camera for £1,000, I'll put my pre-orders.
You'll go, shut up and take my money.
Exactly. Not going to happen. Also, in action camera segments, we're expecting GoPro 11, DJI Osmo 3, and Insta360 cameras as well. What do you think? Do we have a hope for any announcement from Nikon? Maybe a camera, maybe a lens. What are your thoughts? What are your feelings, Becky?
I mean, I do think we're getting quite late in the season, as it were, the announcement and release season. And apart from those obviously incorrect rumors about the Z8, we haven't seen or heard anything else. I mean, I would certainly hope that we're going to have some kind of release drop before the end of the year. So my fingers and toes are all crossed for that.
I absolutely agree with you. I think, I don't have hopes for a camera announcement, but who knows, maybe they will surprise us. Some development announcement, perhaps, with a potential release next year. Could be February, March, but at least they can tell us we are developing that. Actually, there was someone made a fake picture of the screen of Z8 development announcement from Nikon Europe. So perhaps that's going to be the case, but it's highly likely that maybe you'll see a lens announcement. I mean, we have H5 1.2 that's been rumored for quite some time. You told me that you think we may potentially see something like 200 to 500 lens.
Well, 200 to 600 is on the roadmap. And I know, although I feel like we've had our fair share of telephoto lenses over the last 12 months, and that's it now. I still know a number of people who are desperate for that 200 to 600 focal length. So although really, if I'm talking personally, I would love to see an 85 1.2, just because not a lens that I'm going to be able to afford, but I would love to see that in the range. I'd love to see a shorter focal length lens being released again from Nikon, and something that kind of matches up with that 51.2 incredible quality, perfect for event, wedding,
One
beauty
of those
photographers.
pint-sized lens.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. They measure those in pints.
They do measure them in pints. That's how they're weighed. But if they want to appeal to a larger market, obviously the 200 to 600 is the next obvious choice, I would say. Is there anything else that you think?
Well, I hope that they will release another 24 to something zoom lens made by Tamron with Nikon logo on it.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? We have 2875. Let's release 28 to 90 made by Tamron as well. Who knows? Fingers crossed. But my hope is for H5. My only worry about this is going to be too big. 51.2 is fantastic lens, but it's just too big. For me, I just find it a little bit on the large side. So
yes.
I don't want H5 to be the same size. I need something smaller. H5 1.4 for me is perfect.
Nice.
Well, here you have it, folks. Tell us, what you think? Will Nikon announce something this year, or shall we wait for January or February next year? All right, the next one up, and you should really brace yourself for this one. Nikon is denying Red's accusation and will be fighting the lawsuit. So tell us, Becky, tell us a short story. What happened?
Okay, so back in May, we reported that Red was suing Nikon for infringing on its video compression patents. A lot of you will remember that. It was a very hot topic at the time. For those who are not in the loop, Red Digital Cinema sued Nikon regarding the Z9, which is Nikon's flagship, internal compressed RAW capabilities. Red claimed that Nikon infringed on Red's patents that deal with compressed RAW. They apparently also sued someone else, I believe.
Well, they sued everyone, basically.
They sued all the people.
Yeah, I mean, as much as people respect Red, the other opinions I have that Red is becoming a patent troll, which really is not a great image for a company who is actually producing really good quality products.
That's right. So essentially there were three possible solutions or outcomes to this. One was that Nikon would pay royalties to use the ability of shooting compressed RAW internally. The other option would be removing the capability entirely, or fighting back against it. Now, according to Nikon's answer, it's chosen the last option. So they are actually fighting back against this.
All right, so let's go through the document that they filed with the court, and then let's just break them down into plain English.
Yeah, so in the document entitled Nikon Corporation and Nikon Inc.'s Answer to Red.com, Red.com LLC's complaint for patent infringement.
Legally speaking.
The word denies shows more than 70 times. So, as they said, Nikon denies each and every allegation of the complaint. Moreover, it seems that Nikon wants to fight back against it.
Yeah, what's interesting to me that Nikon admits that they knew about Red's prior lawsuit involving one or more asserted patents, including Red versus Kinefinity. It's, again, another camera manufacturing company. Red versus Sony America, they had two separate lawsuits on occasion. So also Red had the lawsuit against Nokia USA as well. So Nikon further admits that it has known of the asserted patents, and at least as the date of service of the complaint. So they knew that those lawsuits based on raw functionality of Red cameras with those companies. So they knew about those lawsuits and still went ahead. And here's the reason why.
Yeah, so Nikon denies that Red is entitled to any relief in this action and has asked the court to deny any and all relief requested by Red.
So the next bit of text is basically shows different patent numbers that Red is claiming that Nikon effectively infringed upon. So they mentioned the patent 967, 560, 314, 976, 384, 866, and 168, whether directly or indirectly, effectively, literally or under doctrine of equivalence. So what Nikon says is that we haven't denied those, and Nikon praised that the court entered judgment in its favor against Red as follows: that Red takes nothing and is denied any relief whatsoever, that Red's claims against Nikon be dismissed in their entirety and with prejudice, that Nikon be awarded the cost incurred in connection with this action. So they deny the allegation. They want to make sure that the court effectively says Nikon is in the right, and then for Red to pay for all the costs of this lawsuit.
Yes. So, in summary, what this means for Z9 users, which is basically the most important thing for us here, is that the Z9 will still be able to shoot compressed RAW internally. This legal process can take some time.
Could take years.
It could. So till then, the firmware 2.0 version, which obviously implemented this change, will continue with all its features. They're not planning to change that. The other action is that other camera manufacturers may decide to step up to the plate and actually fight back and implement compressed RAW capabilities as well. We will definitely see how it goes and continue to keep you posted as news unfolds.
Absolutely. If Nikon wins, it will definitely set a legal precedent. And we're going to come back to that. But obviously, if something like this happens, effectively Red won't be able to sue anyone with regards to those patents anymore. Now, obviously, if Nikon loses, they either remove the firmware from the camera. If that happens, ideally, you want to make sure that you just don't update your camera straight away and you wait for some sort of announcement. Because if there is any removal of RAW, then you don't want to update your camera effectively. In my opinion, it's worth having that RAW. But also what Nikon can do, and which I think in case if they lose the lawsuit, what may happen is they can create a workaround similar to Blackmagic RAW. So effectively, Blackmagic has their B-RAW functionality, which is effectively a RAW format, but doesn't infringe on the Red patents. So there's a very fine line they work in,
Yes.
But there's more to that. And, part of the infringing patents, here's the Nikon legal defense, and it comes with the help of R.C. Jenkins, who is our viewer and also quite frequent user of Nikon rumors. And I think he explained the situation quite clearly.
He said Nikon also has a lot of confidence in their defense. Nikon are essentially saying, yes, we knew about this patent and did it anyway because the patent is invalid. There was another company, Genetech, that Red tried to sue, and Genetech made a very strong argument that Red's patent is invalid because they filed for it more than 1 year after public demonstration of the technology, which would render the patent invalid. When Genetech responded and pointed this out, Red withdrew their lawsuit after 2.5 years, possibly to avoid the patent being formally invalidated. This is one of Nikon's defenses too, that Red's patent is invalid because Red publicly demonstrated the technology more than 1 year prior to filing for the patent. If Nikon's defense holds up, Red might have to kiss any patent trolling on this one goodbye, and the entire market might open up a bit more on RAW video.
Yeah, so something that we haven't mentioned in the legal paperwork that they submitted to the court is literally shows that Red demonstrated their technology a year before. And in the United States, it's very important. Apparently, you shouldn't demonstrate anything before filing the patent. So if a small company like Genetech can countersue Red and win that, I personally have quite a confidence in Nikon's defense because they're effectively doing the same thing. While some people may say that, well, why Sony and Apple paid the settlements to Red? Well, the reason because their defense wasn't based on that. It was based on something else. And that's the reason why. So it's very interesting. Tell us what you think about it. Obviously, we respect Red for what they've done with their, with their cameras, and obviously they produce really good products. But if actually this side of things, I personally, as a Nikon user or just as any videographer or photographer combined, I do not appreciate. So in some of this, I hope Nikon wins this case. I mean, we're Nikon Report, so maybe we're a little bit biased. But at the same time, I think if Nikon wins, it will definitely set a legal precedent for the future cases like this. Now, Genetech also shared a video on YouTube, which is called Red Patents, Things You Thought You Knew About Red Digital Camera. So that should explain you a little bit more about Red Patents and what they do and why Red is unique. And so have a look at that. Hopefully, we explained it in more or less
Layman's terms.
Exactly.
Well, I understood it, so that's a good start.
Absolutely.
Because if I understood it, then I think most people can understand it.
Yeah, it took me a while.
Yeah.
A few glasses of scotch, I would say that. All right, let's move on to other news. Nikon Japan lists Nikon Z6 as an old product, aka discontinued. So we talked about Z7 a couple of weeks ago. The stock of Z6 2470 kit is still available in the United States. I can tell that in UK, The kit is available as well as available for order for UK dealers like us from Nikon UK. However, it's out of stock. So the question is, it may be discontinued, it may not, some stock may arrive or not, but you can't order any other SKUs. You can't order Z6 body or 24-200 kit from Nikon at this stage. It seems to me that yes, it's probably Z6 on its last legs, which again gives me hope for something like Z6 Mark III announcement, just because Nikon has this reputation of releasing a new camera and then keeping a previous generation on sale. Therefore, the third generation may be discontinued at this stage.
Yes. What I do find is that quite often we are still able to order these kits for some time, but then what actually happens is later on down the line, when those products have been end-of-lifed, as it's called, we have our back orders for them cancelled. So just a little sort of dealer insight for you. It may be that that's the case. I would say if you are interested in buying a Z6 kit with the lens still, then preferably buy it somewhere that it's still in stock, because it's highly likely that you won't be able to get hands on it. We never really know until it's done though, so.
Legally speaking, we cannot confirm or deny such allegation.
You've gone all legal speak now.
Exactly.
You've been watching too much Suits.
All right, let's move on to some other news. First one up is Nikon Film Festival 13th edition is going to be held in France sometime at the end of this year, and you have a whole month to apply for it. So tell us, Becky, what is Nikon Film Festival?
So Nikon Film Festival is an event that encourages video creation and promotes the emergence of new talents through a unique concept, allowing everyone to create and distribute a short film for free. The challenge offered is to make one or more short films for a duration of about 2 minutes 20 on a theme imposed each year. No more, no less, that's it. The ideal format is for web distribution and allows creative freedom to be maintained while minimizing the technical constraints that would limit its accessibility. If you're interested in participating, we will include a link in the description box and in the podcast notes. I think we should enter.
Absolutely.
And make a short film.
What I like about this, they released a teaser on YouTube, which was clearly shot on Nikon Z9. Just have a look at that.
I know. I'm just wondering why they've picked a CGI commercial for it. It's very cute, but how random.
All right, let's move on to third-party news. Casino, who's well known for his brand Voigtlander, will announce more Nikon Z mount lenses soon. The first one up is Nocton 40mm f1.2. 40mm sounds amazing. That one is already available for Sony E-mounts. The price is expected to be between $850 and $900. And if you want to see the pictures of it, I assume that Z-mount lens will look very similar to this. It looks beautiful. Now, they also will announce Macro Upper Ultron D35mm f2 lens, which is a DX lens, and that one is available for Fuji X mount already. So it seems like it's been designed already, so they just need to change the mount effectively.
Fair enough.
And that one will be available at expected price around $700. So again, we expected this announcement to happen within the next couple of weeks, hopefully with availability later this year.
Yes. Now, bearing in mind, they already have a 35 1.2 Nocton D, which is a DX lens. This one is actually a macro apo lens. So it's supposed to be optically better and also a macro lens, just for anyone who might be confused about why they would have two 35mm in the APS-C lens forum.
Exactly. So one is 1.2, so it's good for street and bokeh, and then another one is f2, which is basically a macro lens.
Yes. Obviously, if we can get our hands on these, we will also review them, as we have done with every other Voigtlander lens that's been out for the Z mount so far.
We are the only place for Voigtlander Z mount reviews on YouTube. Look at this pretty faces. Giving you the knowledge.
It's very true. And we also stock them. So if you're considering purchasing one of these, please do support small business and buy it from the shop if you can.
Speaking of supporting small business, I just bought F-mount 40mm f2, which I will be reviewing and comparing it to some of the 35 Nikon F-mount AIS lenses.
Very nice.
Stay tuned.
Now, this one excites me. Next up, we have Meyer Optik Biotar 58mm f1.5 Mark II lens for the Nikon F and Z mount, officially released and available to order. This lens combines very sharp image center with that kind of dreamy swirly whirly bokeh that I've only ever seen on, like, for example, the Voigtlander 58mm, the good old rangefinder Nikon 5cm 1.1. There's some lenses which produce this classic look, and this looks like it's going to be one of them. Has an image circle diameter of 44mm. Its closest focusing distance is 70 centimeters, and it's going to weigh about 400 to 450 grams.
Yeah, I mean, it also reminds me of Jupiter 5 lenses as well, which are a lot cheaper, obviously, but not as sharp. So in terms of this, yeah, this one looks fantastic. I would call it special effects, maybe not for everyday use, but it definitely gives you a very, very interesting look. So originally, the Biotar 58 lens was designed by ingenious optical designer Willy Merte. It was available for 25 years. Imagine this. And this is one of the longest best-selling Biotar lenses that were available. So the new version, while keeping the characteristics of the looks effectively, so this beautiful swirly bokeh, it adds the sharpness.
That's right. It's going to be about $999. So I'm not sure what that's going to be in Great British pounds.
Probably £999.
Probably. But I would be very interested. If someone gets one and wants to loan it to me for a couple of days, I'd really like to try it out.
Amazing. Yeah, for portraiture, I can see that it's definitely will have its own use.
Yes, it's quite unique. Now, we also have a new Nisi fast wide angle spherical lens for the Nikon Z mount, which should be coming at the end of this month, that's September. They're expected to announce a new fast 2 point something wide angle.
2.8 probably,
yeah, f2 or f2.8 wide angle lens for the Z mount. Now, it will be the second Nisi lens for the Z mount. A few months ago, they announced the 14mm f4, which some of you will have spotted in an earlier Nikon report. And we have some sort of preview photos, if you like. Nothing too telling.
A teaser.
Yeah, exactly.
It looks nice. I think that amount of third-party lenses that come in for Z mount, it makes really Z mount, while being the largest one for full frame, also kind of a universal mount for a lot of lenses. So you not only can buy native Z glass from third parties, you can also adapt a lot of lenses for that mount. So I'm really happy with this, obviously, with the whole RF Canon lockdown, etc., etc. You know, I think it's a welcome news from third-party manufacturers. Now, we have more news on Fringer Nikon F mount to GFX adapter that we mentioned last week.
Yes.
They finally published a video showing not only autofocus speed of Nikon lenses attached via adapter to GFX 100S, they also show an aperture control, which is really nice. And they say that the development of this adapter is almost completed. So for some of you who are still waiting for high-resolution Nikon body and have GFX cameras, you can potentially purchase this adapter.
Now for your reviews, we have a Nikon 24-70 2.8S real-world review by Matt Irwin. Now, he's got the 2 years plus real-world review here, where he gives you a real-world review of the 24-70 2.8.
Yeah, I can't believe that 24-70 2.8 ZS lens has been out for 2 years. I mean, I got mine about 6 months ago, I think, and it felt like it came out recently. But 2 years already. Wow, incredible.
Time really flies.
Absolutely. I agree with Matt on the image quality is fantastic. Also for video work, I mean, we record a lot of our videos from the other location on that lens, and it just gives this beautiful, soft look to the image.
Yes.
And a good saturation. So have a look at this if you like it. Maybe place your order with us.
With 10% off. Now, for your weekend read and watch segment, we have a review that came out a little bit later than scheduled. That was my fault. For the Nikon Z30 versus the Z50 versus the ZFC, which mirrorless DX camera is for you?
Yeah, if you have any doubts which Nikon Z DX camera to choose, hopefully that will clear your doubts.
Yeah, and if you've already got one or the other one, you might just find it interesting.
Yeah.
That's it, really.
The next one up is a fun one. It's an article by Petapixel, which is called How Steven Sasson Invented the Digital Camera. So it's talks about him, how he started to work at Canon and how he creates the prototype of a first digital camera in the world.
What's really funny is that they did not think that Sasson's digital camera had any place in photography. So
that's true. I mean, I can see that's it looks pretty much like a Z9.
Yeah, it's amazing how time has kind of made camera development go full circle, hasn't it?
That's true. What actually was interesting to me that I, like, for some reason I had this idea that first digital camera was designed in Japan, you know, just because a lot of technology comes from Japan, but actually was designed by the United States by Kodak. And see where Kodak is now. They clearly thought it's not a good idea.
They really did think it wasn't a good idea, did they? They literally just went, it's not a good idea, we're not going to do it, and then everyone else did it.
You know what the problem with big corporations
You know what grinds my gears? Yeah.
No, but you know what the problem with big corporations is? It's they try to milk certain products till it's too late. So they basically decided we're not going to introduce digital, we're going to sell film because that's what's making money.
Yes.
And have a massive drop off. So they didn't transition into digital what they should be. I mean, they had some digital cameras, but they should be really pushing the technology since they were the first ones on the market effectively.
Yes.
They should have been competing, but because they decided that we're going to stick to film, they've done this. But the problem, what happened was, after it's been all dropped off, it was too late to compete. And they also scrapped all their film manufacturing, process. And again, that's what happens with big companies.
Yes.
They don't preserve. For them, it's easier just to get rid of things.
Which is very sad for us.
Exactly. And then obviously in unlikely event, which is happening now with the resurgence of film, they don't have that equipment anymore. So effectively they're using the machines, I think 2 machines that's left for production of the whole film from Kodak.
Crazy.
And obviously if you want to have a new machine now, you have to design from scratch. So here you have it, folks. I don't know what else to say on that, but yeah, that annoys me.
Well, just saying, Kodak didn't think that the digital camera had any place in photography, and look where we are now.
Shooting film, Konstantin Becky.
As well as digital.
Still.
Anyway, and that's a wrap for you.
Thanks for joining us this week.
Yes, thank you very much for watching and or listening. Please give us a like and a subscribe if you're on YouTube. Immensely appreciated. If you're listening on a podcast platform, then a follow, a rating, a review, all that good stuff would be hugely helpful for our little channel.
Absolutely. Be available on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify Music. I haven't seen many reviews on those platforms, so please leave us a review. That helps the discoverability of the podcast immensely.
It does indeed. Now, if you'd like to find us on the internet, we occasionally post on places like Instagram. You can find me at Rebecca_Denese. The shop's at Nikon at Grays.
And I'm at Konstantin Kochkin. I am thinking we might need to start an account on all sorts of places like TikToks, granaries, and Veros.
Yes.
It seems like that's where photographers are heading. So who knows, you might find us there in the future. But for now, goodbye.
Thank you very much for watching.
Bye.